So now we just want to tell our participants, we want to inform everybody that they can follow this conversation using the hashtag. There's a hashtag there if you're on Twitter, and then you're on Facebook. So we want this conversation to actually be able to circulate widely. I believe today there are practical kind of information that we can put into practice that will benefit every one of us, especially considering the situation we find ourselves globally now in terms of this COVID-19. So I welcome each and every one of us, and there will be time for questions. And I believe that our panelists are well equipped and well prepared to attend to those questions. So this is a webinar organized by the Institute of Agribusiness Management. We are based in Nigeria, and it's a membership-driven organization. And I think this is an institute that each and every one of us should have a look at and really see how we can be of help. The institute has helped a lot of people, and we are still doing it. We want to try as much as possible to be able to be, if I may say, solution providers to some of the issues around agribusiness in Africa. So yeah, the topic is about positioning, post-COVID-19. We find ourselves globally now in this situation. The value chain is disrupted. There are quite a lot of things that happening as we speak now, not only in Africa but globally. So how do we position ourselves as business people, as people who are looking into what does the future hold? How do we navigate this terrain? With the kind of situation the world is presented with. And one thing I personally like about this topic is the opportunity aspect, because you look at it now, the topic says opportunities, and currently now the world is in a serious mess in terms of the challenges of COVID-19. So what we are trying to say as an institute is to look beyond the current crisis, to look beyond the current COVID-19. And begin to see how to position ourselves. I think that's the way to go. That's the way to move forward. That's the way to really progress. And as an institute, we are here. We are starting a conversation now that we believe that we'll be able to progress and move on to benefit a lot of people. So I will start by introducing our panelists. This is Mrs. Patricia Obichukwu. She's based in the UK, and as you have seen on the screen there, she's the CEO of Best Produce. And I think I interacted with her briefly just before this webinar. One thing I could be able to pick up is the vast experience, years of experience that she has put into what she's doing. And I think that will come in to benefit to our advantage as soon as she begins to actually render our own presentation. So we welcome you to our midst, madam. Thank you so much. Yeah. And then our next panelist, this is Mr. Folabi Obisesan. Mr. Folabi Obisesan works for Afrexim Bank. And I know some of the questions we get regularly from people is about finance. It's about how do I finance my project, whether it is export, whether it is setting up my own agro business or processing firm and all that. So we specifically sought for Mr. Obisesan to be able to respond to some of those questions and to be able to really guide all of us into how should we position ourselves financially now in trying to maximize the opportunity that we have in the food and agribusiness sector. So we are still waiting for Mr. Obisesan to join us. I believe that we are going to actually have a time with him also. So we also have here Dr. Obiora Madu. Dr. Obiora Madu is, I can say that he's the pioneer of export education in Nigeria. Maybe it is even not out of place to say in Africa. He has vast experience in what we are trying to talk about as far as the export promotion, export business is concerned. And I believe that each and every one of us, we benefit immensely from what Dr. Obiora will be presenting to us today. You are welcome, Dr. Obiora. Thank you so much for honoring the invitation. So then we have Professor Seth Akusi in our midst. And you know, like I've known Professor Seth now for over 20 years. And I won't forget one of the lessons that he taught me then as a young man trying to navigate my way in business at that time. He said there are two kinds of businesses that you must not joke with if you want to succeed. He said one of them is food business. Professor said, he told me a long time ago that you can never go wrong if you are into food business. So, and the second one, I'll keep it for the other day. Professor, you are welcome, sir. I believe that Prof is going to, be able to expose and be able to tell us practical things we can do. And one of my friends was telling me, say, we want to talk about business, and you are bringing a professor. Say, this professor is going to talk about academic paper and things like that and all that. And I told him, I said, look, I said some professors are well balanced. I said, if you are looking for a professor that is balanced, when he talks in terms of business and in terms of academics, Professor Akusi is the best. And I'm sure that this time around, he's not only going to talk to us based on academic, he's going to blend it with practical, because he has hands-on experience in business and in trying to, especially in entrepreneurship education. So he's an economics by academic training and an entrepreneurship educator himself. Welcome again, Prof. Thank you. And yeah, this is my humble self. My name is Steve Arowolo. I lead an organization, Basilia Group, here in Cape Town. And basically what we do at Basilia Group is to see how we can leverage the information around intra-African trade to benefit Africans. And basically, I mean, we have an agency, Unlocking African Market is an agency that is solely dedicated to that. Even before the African Union, begin to talk about the issue of promoting trade within African countries, we've been discussing it. We've been holding conferences and webinars and seminars around the opportunities and the potentials that are available within the African economy. And I think it's one of my area of passion. I'm passionate about Africa. I want to see Africa do more trade with themselves. And I want to see how such ventures will be able to benefit our people. So this is what I do, and I'm driven by what I do. And I have a team of people working with me in this, and we are really pushing out for it. So, and yeah, we'll get to know more about what we do as this webinar continues. So yeah, now I don't want to take the show from our panelists. So what I did was I condensed my own thoughts by way of introduction into a 90-second video. You're going to see this 90-second video now. And I think this 90-second video summarizes the key point, the core of what we are here to discuss today as far as food business is concerned. Enjoy it. Yeah, thank you. So that is it. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, we all have to eat. That's very critical. And you know, that last statement reminds me of what my brother said. My brother, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina of the African Development Bank, when he said, he made a profound statement, I think about a year or two ago, that by the year 2030, the size of food and agribusiness in Africa will reach $1 trillion. So if you are thinking of how to make money, that is the sector to be in. And I think if you think maybe he made that up, then you have to really read more about him. So he's speaking from a practical point of view. This is what he has dedicated probably his entire life on doing. So I think it's, so this also underscores the fact that what we are doing today is very relevant. What we are doing today is actually what we should be talking about, as 2030 is just a few years away. Yeah. So yeah, I think we can start the conversation, and that is that for me. So I'm going to now open the floor for our panelists to give us what they have for us today, and I'll be giving them, you know, between 5 minutes for the first round of their presentation, and then we come in with I'll come in with some questions based on what is presented, and then I'll also take the question for some questions from the audience as well. So thank you so much. That is the end of this slide presentation now. I'm stopping the slide now. So we are back now. Oh, now we have Mr. Obiseson here. You are welcome, Mr. Obiseson. Hello, sir. Hello, can you hear me? Okay. So, yeah, so now I want us to start. I want us to start from I'm trying to unmute him now. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's continue. I'll do the unmuting now. So for our panelists, so I'm going to start with Dr. Obiora to speak to the theme of this particular webinar. And then to our webinar, if you are not talking now, you can just mute. You can mute yourself. I'm trying as much as possible not to mute everybody from here. So Dr. Obiora will give us like a kind of an overview of what this theme, the theme of what we are looking at, emerging opportunities, you know, in food and agribusiness sector post COVID-19. Over to you, Dr. Obiora. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think I probably want to share a slide.
Okay, sir.
All right. Apart from being involved in export, I'm a supply chain person. So I will be looking at it from, Africa is about 20% of the world population. Africa's contribution to global trade is less than 4%. Most of the natural resources dwell in Africa. So what is the problem? In 2005, there was the UNC International Trade Center conference in South Africa. So the question was, what was the problem? After looking at it, everybody agreed that supply chain was the problem. Intra-African trade is also probably under 13%, as against what is happening in other continents, in Europe and in Asia. So with the kind of endowment that we have, why do we have this challenge? So I'll just quickly look at the slides, and then I will share some experiences. Let me start with one particular experience that pains me. Export Promotion Council of Kenya found out that they could supply coffee and tea to Nigeria at very good prices. So they got in touch with me. Then I worked with a local consultant in doing a feasibility, a marketing plan and all that for them. 5 years down the line, nothing happened. And the reason is very simple. When you ship from Kenya to Nigeria, you probably ship to Europe first. So by the time it comes to Nigeria, you will have lost all the supposed advantages that were supposed to be there. So logistics infrastructure, there are no coastal lines moving within Africa and the rest of them. There are no continental highways, and these things are not impossible. They are not rocket science. So these are where the challenge is. So let me just quickly. The food system is a sequence of processes and supporting infrastructure involving the growing, the harvesting, the storing, the processing, the packaging, transporting, warehousing, distribution, consumption, and disposal. It considers a wide variety of tasks from input of agriculture to the final demand, including technological, environmental, economic, and political and social factors. So you can see what we're talking about is huge. Government must come in at some point. Infrastructure is a government business. It's not a private sector business. And maybe development finance institutions can come in at this point. Now, the food supply chain is very, very key to what we're talking about. From farm gate through local buying agents, through the merchants and the rest of them. So Africa is not lacking in natural resources. Africa is not lacking in what to export. It's actually, it's painful why we will have what we have and be in the level of poverty that we are in. Farm to table. The example you are seeing here has to do with cattle. Same thing with food, coffee, first of all as seed, then you move it on to roasting and then grinding before it gets to coffee shops and the rest of them. Now, if you look at the places where they have the satellite agriculture system, you have the farm gate, then you have the farmers association, then you have marketing. Commodity boards used to be very, very prominent in Africa until when the world felt that their time has passed. But I think that was one of the best things that happened to agriculture in Nigeria and so many other countries. Because that was when you had Cocoa House in Nigeria, you had the Granite Pyramid in Kano and the rest of them. And that was when most of the institutes today that we boast of, that was where they came from. Things were better organized than now. But are we going to go back to that era? The answer is no, but I think we can do better than we're doing at this moment. This is another model where you have tenant farmers, which is part of what we have, managed by the landlord, and then of course, the production, and then it ends up with farmers association for, I mean, we have multiple commodity associations here and there, but why do we still have problems? Food safety is one major issue globally. For you to compete, the international market is ruthless, it is selective, and it is fiercely competitive. So for that reason, there's no quality specification for people who are coming from third world countries. It's either you meet the standard or you are out. It's very ruthless. Right now, as we speak, you know that Nigerian beans can't get into Europe for obvious reasons. So food safety is one issue that is very, very critical to breaking into that very, whether you want to, you are exporting it within Africa or whether you want to take it. It's sensitive because it's for human consumption. So a lot, I think UNIDO is assisting Nigeria with quality infrastructure towards ensuring that we're able to overcome those challenges. And what is the problem? You have multiple chemical application in warehouses that are not regulated. So that's that. So I just want to show some pictures. These are items that we have in abundance, but they can't be exported the way they are. Issue of packaging will come in, and the rest of them. In terms of packaging of food, I think the people in Nigeria, there was one African food exhibition. I was amazed at the fantastic quality of packaging that I saw in that very particular place. So this cannot be exported the way they are. They can only be exported if you are able to come up with something like this. Some of them need cold chain to be able to travel. Here is the same tomato. On the left-hand side, what you have there is garden egg. On the right-hand side, up there, what you have there is corn, the common maize that we eat. So actually, I think a research by Nigeria Export Promotion Council shows that in terms of what can be exported, we have like 5,000. So what seems to be the problem? Now, look at plantain. Nigeria is one of the largest producers of plantain, but not counted as one of the exporters. This is how it is handled. Bruised and battered all over. But look at here. Shockingly, the one by the left is Philippines, the other one is Cameroon. So I think that it's then, of course, just like this guy, I'll go back to the other slide. Museveni said, if we could export more finished products instead of raw materials, we could become a middle-income country. You can't be wanting to create jobs and be shipping jobs out of the country and the continent. Then let me go back. This is an entrepreneur in Nigeria. These are ready for export. The guy is exporting. He's exporting to Canada, US, Europe, and everywhere. What you have here, palm oil, crayfish, gari, and everything. So the opportunities are really huge. Talking about opportunities, they are very, very huge. So it's about people carefully. The challenge is that people think that if people here, there's money in this place, they just jump in without a thorough understanding of what is involved. So we can't stop talking. Quality specifications are known. This thing has to be monitored. It's also about attitude, it's about export culture and the rest of them, so that we can start believing in ourselves and trusting ourselves within the continent. That is, so I just have this very short slide, and I'll be ready for questions from either the moderator or from the audience. But as for the opportunities, they are huge. Are they possible to exploit? The answer is yes, because people are doing that right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Yeah, I think that summarizes the aspect of whether the opportunities are there or not. So I'll move quickly to our second panelist, and I would like to call on Madam Obichukwu to just quickly reflect on the theme of this particular webinar in terms of how do we position ourselves for this opportunity in the food trade. And I know that you are an experienced person. You've been in this trade for a while, for some years now. We would like you to share some practical hands-on kind of ideas for us, with us this evening. Over to you. Oh, I need to unmute her now.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I have quickly my slide up?
Okay, you want to do the presentation? Okay. Let me
just quickly, because that's covered underneath there.
Okay, let me see. Okay, I'm looking for that.
Okay, while he's looking for that, hello everybody. Thank you, Dr. Madu, for the full presentation you've done, which is really talking about the quality standard, which is my area of specialism. So you've done a great work in there. I just wanted to go straight on to the situation the world is in, and looking at the opportunities that are existing. And I sort of classified it that we need to look at both during the COVID and the post-COVID, because during the COVID, you can't know, not even government can tell you that they have a strategic plan for the next 1 year, because what is there is that they don't know when this will end. So they are planning things, according to what is happening now. And after that, they will then look at post-COVID. So that's what is happening here in UK. So I will be looking at, how do we, the issue is positioning ourselves in the global trade. I just want to say it is time for Africa to arise and realize that we are like in a football game, okay? In a football game where the global trade is a football field where every team that comes is there to win, okay? If you are not prepared well, you will lose. And maybe that's why Africa hasn't won the World Cup for many years now. So we need to start to rethink and see how do we become, we are smart people, but at times we make ourselves like if we don't know what is happening, okay? At the moment, the whole sector are hit. I will use UK as example. We have 7 key sector areas that I'll focus on and say that whether it's government, whether it's education, whether it's a social area, whether it's the healthcare, whatever it is, economy, everybody is praying that it doesn't go into bad depression. So, but there are still people that must eat. In UK, when this started, we were going into lockdown, there was a panic buy of food. You go to supermarkets, you don't have, you don't have food. So even toiletries, you couldn't get because, so they have to rationalize and plan things very well so that it is managed. But even though we have lockdown, thank you very much. Even though we have lockdown, can you come to the next slide, please? Yeah, the next slide. Yeah, so opportunities, I looked at the COVID and the post-COVID opportunities. And I say that you need to really, as individual, because you need to look at ourselves as SMEs, people who are in SMEs, and even the bigger companies. A lot of big companies are being hit, and they are looking on government for bailout. And also the nation having a strategic direction. In here, what we are looking at, self-assessment. You need to reassess yourself. What sector are you in? What sector is badly hit? And where will the opportunity come? If you look at the hospitality sector, it's very badly hit. Even in UK, the lockdown with this hospitality industry and social distancing is going to be longer than expected. Education system is badly hit. The healthcare system is badly hit. People have to eat, okay? No matter what, people have to eat. And then you look at other areas, even the Navy. Every country, you have UN keeping forces, they eat. They have to buy food to eat. Even now, US is already tendering for people to supply their navies that are all over Europe. And so the same thing applies to different sectors. So you have to ask yourself, what opportunities are there? Let me do my own self-assessment. As a nation, let me take Nigeria, for example. It really, at times is very painful to me as a Nigerian and you know, seeing the great opportunities that are facing us, and yet we find it difficult to pass some hurdles. you know, we don't do, like this thing is happening. Nigeria is just coming up. We don't even know the extent it will go in Nigeria, because from 1 it goes to 2, from 2 now you're over 5,000, and still the control measures, if the Westerners have not even been able to control it, talk less of our lifestyle in Nigeria, where we don't know how. I see when even they are burying a COVID people, how they are, the lifestyle, the behavior has not changed. You understand? So we don't know how it will happen. So we need to do internal assessment and external assessment to identify these opportunities. Coming back to, before you can even have the strategic direction, what to do. Coming back to risk assessment, every business needs to risk assess themselves now. Is your own sector more hit than others? There are sectors that even after COVID, it will take a slow recovery, because people's, looking at the hospitality industry, that may take a longer period to recover, because people's lifestyle are changing. Families are forced to begin to eat at home. Families who are used to going out to eat are changing, the lifestyle are changing. Many people are losing their jobs, so you may not have people to feed. So how do you reposition? You need to be thinking about it. You need to be reassessing yourself. So if you are a supplier supplying to restaurants in Europe or restaurants anywhere, you need to be reassessing yourself and doing your own risk management. Next slide, please. And again, we need to be asking ourselves, what are the key challenges? I feel that one of the major key challenges, even when our doctor was talking, is our mindset, okay? Our mindset. And when the chairperson was also talking, our mindset needs to begin to change, because we don't understand we are in a game. It's a world game. And we need to be prepared to understand the gameplay, okay? And how to work on that. We need to, most of us, especially in Nigeria, when you have, last year I brought a sort of a contract for one buyer in Europe alone for sweet potato orange flesh. What about $2 million? We find it difficult to get producers to supply. Do you know why? Because the mindset, oh, I can make more money in Nigeria than making abroad, you know? So it's really puzzled me. And this also I compare to when I got a business for Nigeria producers from UN procurement team, okay, for the armies. And we couldn't get suppliers who will meet the quality standard. So our mindset needs to change. And the people are playing on that mindset. We have a lot of product, but people are happy to sell the raw material to Indians, to Chinese, to go and process and then make more money than you. So why are we not being smarter to know that we are in a football game and we are there to win, and utilize this and do all the supply chain development that we need? There is poor coordination and harmonization process. We don't coordinate. We have a lot of associations in Nigeria. I'm using Nigeria as an example. There are some African countries that are doing well, but we have poor coordination. The associations are not effective. They are not effective partners. They don't coordinate well. So they don't have, some of them don't have strategic directions, and yet they're associations. Again, we have poor infrastructural and quality issues. So going to the final slide, what I will say is, the next slide, please. How do we reposition ourselves successfully? We need to really look at changing our mindset. That's the first thing we need to do. We need to say, this is a great opportunity. Every natural disaster or every biological disaster, whatever it is, creates opportunity for some people. But it depends on whether you have insight to see the opportunity that are there and reposition yourself to key into that, that opportunity. You need to analyze which sectors. I've just given you one or two sectors, but there are sectors that need food now. Everybody is locked in, they have to be eating, okay? Other nations, some nations in Africa have taken the opportunity. Even in the Western world, the only logistics that are not stopped are food. Cargoes are coming in delivering food, you know, so that is strategic direction, that is strategic planning. Do we have, in our nations, do we have, if I use Nigeria, have our government really, really strategically position the cargo sector to move and be able to compete, okay? Finally, we need to be innovative. You have to reinvent. There is a need for reinvention. You can't be where you are. It's no longer business as usual. Even the food you deliver and package will change. Certain things will change after this COVID-19. So you need to be thinking ahead because it is market driven. It's not supplier push. It is market driven, market pull. The market pulls you. So you need to know what the market requires. And I go back to this mindset before I conclude. This issue of mindset, many people always say, oh, you have to find me off-taker. The word off-taker, they call it off-taker. You have to find me off-taker before I can. I say, you people know you are in a competitive market. Off-taker will be waiting for you to get your ass sorted out, and their business is waiting for them. It is not the Western pattern. The Western pattern, are you ready to supply? Even quality assurance is changing. New laws are coming in because of the way people work. Hygiene, food hygiene law will be changing slightly. The way people are positioned in the farm, you know, everything is changing. Are you gearing into that? You understand? So these are the key things I want to bring. Yes, there is opportunity, but you need to look at what sector. It is actually what you do, individual business assessment or group business assessment, to identify which area are you, what is it you're lacking, how do you move from where you are to reinvent yourself to fit into the new global market that is a changing world. It will never be business as usual. Everything will change. Even the cargo industry will change. So if this is the area I just wanted to contribute towards this, a little bit slide.
Okay.
So people can, the next slide, please, so the people can ask, question time. Yeah.
No problems. Thank you so much, madam. We are coming back to question time. Thank you so much. Yeah, I just want to inform the people who are out there, you know, listening to this, that we are live on Facebook. You can also make use of the hashtag, that we projected on the screen to be able to actually follow this conversation. People are actually tweeting it, and we want to try as much as possible to carry everybody along. So please, let's make sure that we participate, and then our questions will be attended to. So yeah, thank you. And also, the other thing I would also like to say is this: I want us to look at this conversation, this discussion, from a global point of view, but we now contextualize it for Africa in terms of, especially in terms of what these Africa continental free trade areas. You see that, like Madam was mentioning something about the hospitality industry, the food, the catering industry and all that. You see how they have been badly hit by this COVID-19. And that the worst of it is that you see that most of the local industries that are supposed to be manufacturing this equipment to supply to those hospitality market and also to the food catering industry, they are not there. So it's either that we look away from that. But I think COVID-19 is telling us something. COVID-19 is telling us to look within and ask ourselves, what is possible? What can we do within our own continent? I believe we have, I know what I'm talking about. We have organization, we have industry in this Africa that could begin to manufacture for some of these, whether it is hospitality industry, whether it is the health sector, whether it is the catering equipment. But what you find is that most of the time, business people go outside of the continent to go and source for this thing. And at the end of the day, when COVID-19 happened, nobody could move anywhere. Every one of us, we are trapped here. So I think what COVID-19 is telling us to look within and ask ourselves, what is possible within the continent? What is possible within the country that I have found myself in terms of, especially because the supply chain has been badly disrupted. So, and that's why I'm really happy that we are looking at this conversation. Africa needs to get to a level whereby we can begin to trade within ourselves. Fine, we need our friends, we need the Americas, we need the people in the Europe, we always need each other. But Africa needs to get to a place whereby we ask ourselves, what is possible within the region? In terms of trade and investment, in terms of import and export, how can we move goods and services within the region? That should be very key and very critical. And I see that is what the African Continental Free Trade actually wants to achieve. And originally, the trading is supposed to start officially by the 1st of July. Based on the information at our disposal, it looks like that is going to be postponed now. And I think the postponement, I don't want to see it as a disadvantage. I want to see it as an advantage in the sense that it's giving us opportunity to really prepare and to really position ourselves for this kind of thing. So that's what we are going to be looking at. So I don't know whether Mr. Folabi is still there. I would love to call on him now to just respond to some of these points that I have raised. And I want him to look at it from the finance point of view. He's an investment banker. He has spent years in the financial industry. And not only that, Mr. Folabi and Mr. Obiseson is representing I think the foremost bank on the continent that is responsible for import and export. That is the Afrexim Bank. Afrexim Bank is doing so much. And I believe that he will be able to guide us. How can Africa begin to do business with itself? How can we begin to bring up industry within Africa that can actually make goods and services, the movements of goods and services happen? So what are those things that are preventing this kind of thing from happening before now? So I'm giving you the mic now, sir. You are welcome. Over to you.
It's muted.
Thank you very much let me start by saying thank you for the opportunity to be here.
You're welcome.
And it's my pleasure to be part of this panel discussion. I work for African Export-Import Bank, and as the host has mentioned, African Export-Import Bank is a policy bank. It's actually set up to support trade in Africa. Part of our mandate is to support intra and extra African trade. And the way we do that, we run what we call 5-year strategic plan. For this strategic plan, which we are running currently, one of the strategic pillars that we have is to facilitate and promote intra-African trade. Because we consider that if you look at the statistic that is available, you will see that the extra-African trade far outweighs intra-African trade. And the best way to actually promote food security and to also expand the trade in Africa is to find a way on how we can trade with ourselves. So the bank created what we call intra-African trade. And it is the way we run our intra-African trade is we create, we deliver, and we also do advocacy work. Now, there is a part which we call the advocacy work, where we work with the African Union to see how we can bring all the countries together to start trading with ourselves. You will be aware that there is more of informal trade in Africa, but there is a need for us to also formalize the trade among African countries. And under this pillar, we work with the African Union to actually implement the AFCFTA. As Yost has mentioned, that has been postponed now to January 2021 in terms of implementation of the AFCFTA. There are different products that we have to support trade in Africa. As I've mentioned, we do the advocacy work. We also have supply chain financing in terms of products that we have to also support trade in Africa, right from the supply food value chain, right from the farmer to the extent where the food will land on our table. So there are different products that we have. We also understand that there are challenges that are facing the small players in the market, and we work with local financial institutions to actually de-risk part of the risk. Now today, many of the local financial institutions don't want to deal with SMEs. And primarily, if you look at the food industry generally, is an industry that is meant for small and medium enterprise. Most of the local banks are not willing to deal with them because there are issues around collateral, there are issues around pricing, which may be punitive to the farmer or to those people who are in the agro business. A Flexing Bank creates a program where we can work with the local financial institution to de-risk part of those inherent risks that is associated with that. So by creating what we call a partial credit guarantee scheme, which is similar to what we have in Nigeria under the risk-sharing lending program of NISA. So we create a program like that. We also have a department that looks at light manufacturing and export processing. As you may be aware, part of the issues that we are having in terms of export is there is a need for standardization of some of our trade. So the bank, as part of the non-financial intervention, are also working on standardizing, creating quality centers and standard centers, working with the African Standard Organization, so that we can start standardizing some of our products and then making them to be something that can be exported to the outside world. We have seen cases in which some of our products are not being allowed for export. But we are working with the African Standard Organization to see how we can standardize and create quality products that is suitable for export. So there are so many things that we are doing. I want to stop at this time, but I know that for part of the issue around AFCFTA, as I've mentioned, because we are doing this facilitation with the African trade, is going to create a lot of opportunities in the marketplace. Food security is going to enable us, because the essence of the AFCA following the implementation is that there is going to be removal of tariff.
Yeah.
And that will facilitate trade among African countries. We know that some of these countries are also going to be affected by the AFCFTA implementation, because of some of them have budgeted the tax revenue that they are going to get from the export that's going to happen. So part of the thing that we are also doing is we created what we call an AFCFTA adjustment facility. Now that adjustment facility is actually to support African countries to be able to manage the impact of the AFCFTA implementation from the angle of tariff, which has budgetary impact on those countries. So we work with our member countries to see how we can support them through the adjustment facility. As I've mentioned, we also work in order to facilitate the implementation of that EFTA, and also working with those member countries to be sure that they are ratifying the EFTA agreement. I want to stop here, and we can take questions as the case may be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think personally, for some years now, I've been following the activities of Afreximbank, and it blows my mind the kind of work that the bank is doing on the continent, and how the bank is just rightly positioned to actually address this issue we are talking about. How do we make finance available for import and export to be possible for in Africa and for Africans? And I think based on the little I know about them, they are really doing a lot of work. And the good thing also about the bank is they are open to partnership. They partner with other financial institutions and all that. So, and yeah, we are still going to be hearing more from Mr. Obisesan during the course of this webinar, and because I would like him to give us what are those practical ways, possibly maybe a case study of what Afreximbank has been able to do for entrepreneurs on the continent and small business owners in particular. So that will be the next phase of engagement. Discussion. I would love Mr. Obisesan to really amplify in terms of what the Afreximbank is doing on the continent. Yeah. So yeah, I want us to just quickly go to Professor Seth Akutsin to introduce the theme and to give us a kind of an overview, a simple overview of what is the meaning of all this to him in terms of saying we want to position him for emerging opportunities in the global food trade. So Professor Akutsin, there's something that, look, a long time ago you told me something about food business, and I never forgot. I've never forgotten when you told me that what are the two businesses you can do is food business and the other one, which I won't mention now. So, and now today we are over 20 years ago or 15, thereabout, you told me about that. And now today we are talking about food business. You are welcome on board, sir. Thank you. Over to you. Oh. Okay.
Very much, my brother Steve Prinua. I appreciate you for coming, and also my guy here, the logistic Prinua. We have been together for more than 20 years, and I'm happy to have him here on board. He inspired me a lot when he started this exporting. He was working in the bank, and he started the export business. I said, what is this? That was when people don't even know what is export. That's about 40 years ago. And today, I can testify that really he has taken the entire continent by storm. And in fact, in Malaysia, he's also working with the Malaysian University as somebody who is building their logistic and supply chain framework. Let me appreciate you. And also, Madam Patricia, we thank you meeting you today, and also Obisesan from that. I want to share some slides briefly, will not take time, so that we see the challenge. To share my slide. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, continue. We can hear you.
Okay. I want to see my slide, please.
Okay.
Okay. What we do, what I'm trying to bring here is foodpreneurship. I have been involved with volunteerism, but let me correct here. I'm no longer the director of entrepreneurship at Kaduna State University. I've left, and I work currently with Nile University of Nigeria, helping to the department, and also some level working with the entrepreneurship framework. We call it CEL, that is a Center for Lifelong Learning. So I try to bring entrepreneurship to help people into volunteerism. Many times people don't have job. I've done it for the local government. When I was director of entrepreneurship, we brought all the local government together. We trained them, on volunteerism. Volunteer your service and see what will come out of it. Now, conceptual, I just want to see, maybe people be wondering what we mean by foodpreneur. It's a person who sees opportunity in the food business value chain seizes it by creatively organizing all our new resources together to generate current and future wealth for the good of all and himself. So there are so many things to do within the food industry. For instance, me, I'm into service. There are places I eat in Abuja. I approach them and I study the place, and I discover that there are some lapses, and I have to train them on customer service and all that and what have you. So the food industry is massive, and I believe that when we key into it, we have enough, because everybody has to eat. As we used to say in Nigerian parlance, man must work. Now look at it. This one just came in just a few days ago from the National Bureau of Statistics. I just got it here and I tried to bring it down. Last year alone, Nigerians spent 23 trillion naira on food alone. And now, don't forget that Nigeria is over 200 million in terms of size. And if Nigeria alone can spend 200 million on food, the budget of Nigeria that has just been revised is just about 10 trillion. And here are we are spending more than twice the amount of our budget on food alone. That's to tell you that this is a massive industry. And don't forget also that the food industry, agricultural combined, provide us with about a quarter of our GDP. And if you go through the value chain, you see that there is need for us to key in to get a slice of this. 23 trillion is going into people's mouth. What about other areas? So that's to tell you that this is a massive industry. And today, even if you look at the stock market, you see that the food industry, like Cabri and the rest of them, where the stock market is doing badly, they are doing well because people are ordering for food, government are ordering for food, private sector are distributing food massively. So where we have this challenge, then where does entrepreneurship comes in? And that is where my area is. Though I'm an economist, I've been working on entrepreneurship a lot to see how do we key in to work entrepreneurially. Now, if you look at in Nigeria, the Southwest alone, consume more food than any other part of the country. And so that's to tell you that where our food, if you look at the trailer load, you see that from the northern part of Nigeria, the food, basket, industry trailers are moving towards that side. That shows that there is huge business. Now, we have the small scale farmers. They form 80% of the food industry. That's to tell you where somebody can key in. People are always sitting there waiting to start very big, start very massively, start small and grow. And this is one thing about the MSME that we've been training, we've been bringing up to see how can they make it. They form the greater workforce. The extension services are not strong enough. Then there's the massive value chain. We have the three areas, the production part, the distribution part, the consumption. Now, the consumption is where the chain ends. But within the production and consumption, there is the huge gap, the distribution aspect. For instance, I saw a slide that Steve was trying to broadcast to us that shows that in the United States, there's several kilometers that food will travel before it gets to the consumer. So you can see that the distribution channel is a challenge that we can key in to see how we can help in the industry. And the industry has its complementary aspect, that is the tourism aspect, because there's no tourism without food, and there's no food without tourism, because food is becoming, a tourist attraction that people could travel to other countries just to go and, taste their food and enjoy their food and all that. So you can see that we can use that as a tourism market industry. Then, of course, during this COVID-19, we have what you call the 3 L's. The 3 L's is one, lives. Once somebody is alive, the next thing is livelihood. What most of us are craving for during this coronavirus challenge is the liberty. We want to move around, we want to go around. But if there's no livelihood, liberty cannot even be there. Yes, lives comes number one, the first L, the second L, and other. And that is where food, you can see that the food industry is in the middle of everything that we do, even before clothing, before moving around, and some other things like that. Now, I produce this frame using biology, anatomy, and physiology. I've looked at the market industry, especially I deal with SMEs. Here I brought in the head, which is the chief executive, the heart. And most of the time we like the heart, the human resource personnel that can recruit people into this farming industry and all that. Look at all the massive land that is in this country that food can be produced to feed the rest of Africa. And we are lacking. Then there's the marketing angle, the accounting and finance angle, then there's the production. We are not lacking in production because there are a lot of post-harvest losses that we incur. And if this can be channeled into packaging and all that, but because of the infrastructural challenge, Nigeria, we may not be able to be talking about, setting up industries and all that. But even at the level of the raw food, we have in abundance that we can handle. Now, this is what now look at, I talk about prosumers. There's the production, there's the consumer. Then in between, there's the prosumers. That is ability to produce what you consume. That is the prosumer aspect of it. Now, these are the global nutrients that we need. And the grains, the nut, the vegetable, the fruits, we have them in abundance in this country. So one will be wondering, what is happening that we cannot market? We are still importing all this. We import vegetables, we import fruits, we import grains, we import nuts. And you can see that if we can channel and harness all these potentialities within the country, you see that this country will go far for it. And so these are the areas that I want us to concentrate on, the area of prosumers. We produce, we eat, and then we sell. So we are both consumers and producers. And Nigeria has that capacity, and the rest of Africa too. And then I try to study the BRICS. There's the BRICS deals with Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So in the BRICS, the whole thing is only South Africa that have been able to enter the BRICS. And even in the G20 and the rest of them, you see that South Africa, because they have a very vibrant economy and all that. And other countries in Africa can key in. So they are about 40% of the world population, and they have a GDP of about 20 trillion, and the rest of them. And then later you have South Korea coming in, Mexico coming in, the Arab, Qatar, and UAE, and the rest of them coming in to join the BRICS so that they can serve part of the emerging markets. Now, we come back to Africa. Which country have the great potential to deliver in terms of when it comes to the food supply chain industry? You have South Africa, you have Algeria, you have Nigeria and Egypt. And this is what we call the same countries. And in terms of their currency, in terms of they have fairly good currency, except maybe in Nigeria where the currency is gone, per capita income, poverty line, budget, export, and all that. So the same countries are the key countries that can leverage themselves into, especially with this after African Continental Free Trade Agreement coming. So how do we position ourselves to supply food to people? After this coronavirus, one of the things that people will be looking at with a high level of poverty is what to eat. And once somebody said to what to eat before you can, just to use the Maslow hierarchy of needs, before somebody can now begin to ask for some other thing. So the potentials are very good. Now look at this. If you look at these same statistics, South Africa, Algeria, Nigeria, if you look at in terms of population, in terms of people living below poverty line, in terms of inflation and unemployment, you see that there is challenge. But those challenges can be surmounted. That if you look in terms of ease of doing business, one of the challenges they are facing is that the ease of doing business from the statistics you can see here is not favorable at all in all the countries. South Africa is fairly better, that operates within the top 100, but the rest are far above 100 in terms of ease of doing business, in terms of country ranking. So if you look at export, you see that we are lacking in terms of export, and expenses very high. Especially if you want to export, the expenses we put in, you discover that it's far higher than what we get as a result. So these are the statistics we see around. Now, foodpreneurship in emerging markets, quite a lot is quite underdeveloped because of the wastages we're seeing. In fact, in Benue, in Nigeria, it's a state in Nigeria, you find out that there are a lot of wastages, a lot of losses in terms of harvest and what have you. What do we do? The packaging, the industries are not there. They are not functioning well because of infrastructural challenge, because of some difficulties and all that. We have a group in India and and in Ukraine that want to come and establish industries here. One of the challenges they are facing, they're looking at the infrastructural challenge in terms of power supply and the rest of them. But the argument we used to give is that MTN came from South Africa. With all those challenges, they are doing very well. In fact, Nigeria is one of their largest markets in the continent, where they have more than 20 places, including the Middle East and in Africa and all that. So if those are the challenges, people are taking advantage of those challenges to ensure that they factor in those challenges in preparing their business proposal in order, One of the key issues, I've tried to produce some challenge, access to finance. People have been talking about there is no money to start and all that. Well, we normally say in entrepreneurship that if you cannot make money without money, you cannot make money with money either. So one is that I've been in this country where I see some Indians who come just with proposal and maybe bank guarantee from the Bank of India to start business in Nigeria with nothing and make it. So finance should not be the major thing that we always talk about. Yes, the technology adoption, technology is moving. If you look at, I saw how drones are delivering food to people's homes and all that. So this is where we find ourselves. Then the market access, where do I sell? The policy inconsistency, these are the challenges. But once you work around those things, climate change, things may change, value chain bottlenecks, infrastructure, transportation, and the rest of them. And not that we have small-scale farmers, I've mentioned that and other. What is required is for us as entrepreneurs to prepare. And that's why we say that what we do now is to just create our law, prepare for the emerging opportunities, and get ourselves to know that people must eat. Then how do I key into it? You can be a consultant, you can be a middleman, you can provide from one place, being the distribution chain, you can also, but because the production aspect may be very expensive, where to set up industry and all that, but from that middle thing, you can do something about it. One of our, special advisor to the then Minister of Agriculture, when she came, she doesn't know anything about agriculture, but she was brought in. And immediately now in Lagos, she set up a very strong food industry where she feed people, she do a lot of things. People are trooping in because of just those little experience you learn from just working with the Minister of Agri, and she get those things. So what we do in entrepreneurship is to carve out a niche in the value chain to see where will I fit in? What will I be able to do? What can I do differently from what is being done? And as I said now, because of the lockdown, even right now, people are craving for food. Massive money. Just 2 days ago, Nigeria has spent over 600 million naira, according to their own statistic provision, that on feeding children at home alone. And with the school feeding program that the government is having, you'll find out that what is required is to see how people can key into the supply of this food to all these homes. So the opportunity is massive. And I think when we work around it, we build ourselves around it, all the things. So what is lacking? We need the character, the tenacity, the resilience to be able to, despite the difficulty, build it. And then competence. There are so many things. If you look at the way we package our things, you see that there are challenges. Then the capacity. Can we handle the big thing? 23 trillion naira. How many people can handle it? How many people can key in? So we need to develop those 3 C's to find out that at the end of the day, will be better for this. So let me stop here so that to allow for, further discussion, questions, and, what else we can do. Thank you very much. Best wishes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prof. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. That was mouthful. Thank you. Questions are coming in, and I will be reading them out now. And people are really excited. So I'm going to be throwing the first question to Dr. Obiora. So just to take the second round, and somebody wants to know, in the next 5 years, when you look at the food value chain in Africa, which aspect do you think the focus should be on now? Which aspect of the food value chain do you think focus should be in, especially considering the fact that the African continental free trade now is taking off fully, starting in 2021? Over to you, sir. Okay.
You have to unmute him.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's a difficult question to answer because it's a very wide area. What do you want to concentrate on? It's about looking at, it's not everything that is eaten in one particular country is eaten in the other country. I think a lot more about processing.
Okay.
Because once some of these raw food are processed, then you can process it into things that can be eaten all over. So if we're looking at the African continent and looking at where to concentrate, I think it's about processing our agro produce, at least into secondary.
Yep.
If you look at cassava, for example, there's need for starch. You have to get it to chips, probably get it to flour. The flour is being combined with for bread now, and the rest of them. So I think the concentration should be in processing, because agribusiness is not just about farming. It's also about the processing and the distribution. So for me, the area to look at is value addition.
Correct.
Value addition, and of course that can apply across the board of the. Yeah, we can start later on. Start to think of where do you want to start, because it's actually quite massive. And if you have a processing facility, you can process quite a whole lot of things. So I think value addition for me is key. That way, the items in question can also go further than they will if they were just a raw produce.
Wow, that's very profound. Value addition has been the issue, and I think it's one of the questions. I will just move quickly to Mr. Obiseson. So now, Dr. Obiora raised a very, very important point there in terms of value addition, because my own understanding is that the jobs are in the value chain. You know, like in Africa now, we complain about there is no job and things like that. So if we only produce and just export raw without value addition, I do a lot of work as an agricultural economist myself on the value chain analysis of commodities. And I know that jobs are tied within the value chain, you see. So now, Mr. Obiseson, what is the problem with processing? How can we get it right? What is it that is preventing Africa from getting it right? Why is it that we find it difficult to process our commodities? I mean, it doesn't matter whichever way, whether it is cocoa, whether it is coffee, whether it is anyone. So please, what is it? What is it? What is the problem? Because until we get it right, we're still going to have a lot of jobless African youth, you know, just roaming around the street, because the jobs, when we export raw commodities, we export jobs with it, because the jobs are within the value chain. So, and now under the African Continental Free Trade, how can we get it right? What is it? What is your bank doing to make sure that this issue of value addition is sorted once and for all? Over to you, Mr. Obiseson. I'm going to mute you now.
Okay. Thank you very much. As already alluded to by the other speakers, the supply chain in agriculture goes beyond farming. There is a supply chain that until the food gets to the final consumer, you have not actually done anything. And part of the financing should also be to support the value chain, right from the farming down to processing, to distribution, to retailing, then down to the consumption itself. And there are specific financing products that you can use at each of those chains. Now, for example, if you take farming to somebody buying from the farmer, there are specific financial products that you can use, which is more around what we call prepayment financing. It can also be something like receivable financing, because as a farmer, the farmer needs the cash to go into farming. And he doesn't want somebody to just come and carry his farm produce without paying. So there are structures that you can put in place. But looking at the challenges that we have in processing, it still speaks to the challenges that we have in terms of SMEs generally not doing well, which is more around lack of infrastructure, which is more around the government policy, which is more around that there is no access to finance. And part of the thing that we are trying to do is to provide financing across the value chain. We want to provide financing to support the processors to be able to have the right equipment to do their processing. Now, because if you look at processing as a unit in the value chain, it's actually the one that actually requires industrialization. Because you actually need industrial equipment to be able to produce.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of financing can you put in place to actually support the processor? Now, some of those equipment in Africa, we don't even have those equipment. We don't produce them ourselves. So there is a need to also support through an export finance arrangement where you can support farmer or you can support the processing company to be able to procure industrial equipment that is required for processing. And how do you do that? Afreximbank is both a development finance institution as well as an export credit agency. And when I say export credit agencies are usually institutions that support export in their own countries. But putting Africa in terms of the peculiarity of Africa, we flip that to mean that Afreximbank, we also want to support industrialization of Africa. And how do we support the industrialization of Africa? By supporting African buyers of Western world equipment and providing guarantee or providing support to them for them to be able to procure those equipment. So we can provide what we call a buyer's credit guarantee. We can provide what we call a supplier's credit guarantee, where we provide support to the African buyer of those industrialized equipment from China, from anywhere in the world, to be able to do it. So what we are saying here is we want the African buyers to be able to leverage on the credit rating of Afreximbank to be able to procure those equipment. And by the time we have those equipment in place, then we are able to jumpstart the process and start doing the processing. Then also, there is also a need for government to have a government policy that actually aligns with this strategy. The government must have a deliberate strategy to also support farmers. And how do you do that? Many of the countries must have what we call an export credit department. In Nigeria, we have something we call the Nigerian Export-Import Bank. Part of the mandate of that bank should actually be to support industrialization in Nigeria. And they should look at sectors like agro-business sectors and see what they can do to support them. And as Afreximbank, we render support to all these type of institutions so that we can actually industrialize and make Africa to have that food security that we require. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I think you have answered the question because somebody was trying to find out how do you see the tomato processing sub-industry? Is it worth investing in, financing for export? Who can we speak to? I think the person wants to start a tomato manufacturing company locally somewhere in Africa. I think the person can speak to Afreximbank or yeah. So I think Mr. Obisesa has answered the question. So I'll move to Dr. Obiora. Somebody wants to know, says majority of processors and producers are smallholders. The more reason why they prefer selling at farm gates, except this entrepreneur I put in corporation, financial individual. Export is a great, I think he's trying to actually give a comment. But there's one question for Prof and one for Mrs. Obichukwu. So now this person is asking Mrs. Obichukwu, say, how can SMME make sure that they fit in the market that has changed? How can they do reassessment? I don't know if you understand that question, madam. Say, how can SMMEs make sure that they fit into the market that has changed? It's talking about the changing market dynamics. And then how can they do reassessment? Over to you, madam. Oh, okay, I'm going to unmute you now. So yeah, okay, I think, okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I will quickly answer that because my focus is actually SMEs, small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. One of the key things I was promoting is when I introduced Global Gap Standard to Nigeria is to look at, small group working, okay? And that helps to share resources, that helps to actually, it doesn't matter how small, it may be somebody growing 2 acres, not even up to 1 hectare, but they come together and they share resources, they share knowledge, they share the skills, and they get to position themselves in the market. There are groups let me use East Africa, for example, that's over 12,000 members, and they're able to position their products in the European market, you know. So reassessment begins, so where am I now? Okay, where am I now? What is happening in the market? It's like gathering your market intelligence and looking at that. And obviously, this is a short seminar. It's not a training program that you can tease out a lot of things and help individuals to know how to do their own risk assessment and how to diversify. I just want to touch a little bit on the issue of supply chain that my colleagues have mentioned, because I think we need to really begin to look at when we talk about production. Let me use tomato, for example. Is it for canning tomatoes? Is it for drying tomatoes? You know, there are local equipment we can use. We can look inward first and see how do we maximize the you know, there is, even with the quality standard, I'm dealing with two global standards, but none of them is saying you must go and buy expensive equipment. It is how you use your local equipment to make sure you produce food in a safe way, okay? And that will be like, it may be using even palm materials and things like that to dry the product. But you need to understand what they are requesting and how can you tailor your local equipment to do that. I think that's where we are not getting it, okay? Because if you know what the market requires, you'll be able to look at how do you adjust. There are still small businesses that are niche markets. You don't need to be a very large scale business to enter into a global market. You can be a niche market and supply to a targeted audience. As I was talking to you previously, it can be, is your product targeting a particular niche market, let's say Africans or Nigerians, or what is it you are targeting? Are you targeting a general market? What is it your own product is targeting? So if I don't know the product, I won't be able to advise the individual. So that is the issue. Yeah. Even, let me use tomato, for example. If you want to export tomato to Europe, you need to understand the species of product they need. It's not every species that you can export. You understand? The same thing with pineapples, the same thing with fruits and vegetables. So all this supply chain, what you need to be looking at is that the world is gearing to healthy food, yeah, and the world is gearing to healthy production. And, you know, that is how the world is gearing, and it depends on the sector you are supplying to. So it is a very big, long process of going through the supply chain. You know.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go to throw this question to Dr. Obiora. We are planning to wrap up very soon. The person wants to know, in terms of NAFDAC registration in Nigeria, sometimes people find it difficult, and without registration, some of these goods cannot be exported. That is one. Another person will want to know, how can farmers move from farm gates kind of business people to people who now begin to export, you know? And just as Dr. Obiora is about answering that, after answering that, Mr. Obise, somebody would like to know whether your bank, Afrexim Bank, has a COVID-19 palliative package, kind of a financial structure for those who are planning to export. Because as you know, COVID-19 has impacted business negatively. Is there a COVID-19 palliative from Afrexim Bank? That's the question. So Dr. Obiora, please, you can go for your own questions, sir. And then we'll come to Mr. Obise. Over to you, sir. Oh, I don't know. I mean, this thing just unmute himself. Okay. I think you are muted now. Okay.
Thank you very much. I like that word palliative. It's prevailing everywhere right now. Practically everything. Well, first of all, when you talk about NAFDAC registration, what are you registering with NAFDAC? Well, NAFDAC
should be a processed. It should be a processed kind of.
Okay. NAFDAC registration is not a condition for export. Let me make that clear.
Okay.
You can't sell in the Nigerian market without NAFDAC or import any food without NAFDAC. If you meet the requirement, even in the raw produce, if the buyer appoints an inspection agent to check the quality and issue a quality certificate here, then obviously, but the only thing is that NAFDAC registration could give you an edge that you have a local certification. But if you're dealing with people you know who understand the quality of what you're selling, for example, if it's going into the US, it's the FDA document that they'll be looking at, not NAFDAC certificate. Generally, really, when it comes to export, NAFDAC doesn't have much. But the challenge you have in Nigeria is that government agencies are competing for popularity and complicating things for the exporters. So if you have capacity if you have a market that you're able to supply samples, and they say they want what you need, NAFDAC will not stop you from exporting. That is the information. There was the second question again.
About the farm gates. How can people move from farm gate business people to people who can now export, who can now process and export?
Okay, you know, this thing is a chain. The farm gate is the beginning. After them, you have the local buying agents. After them, you have the merchants. What is the farm gate? The farmer, if I have to advise, it is best to concentrate in what you know how to do. But if a farmer has the capacity to also process and export, it's fine. But the point is that everyone in the chain has a role they are playing. Once you want to make the profit of everybody, you get into trouble. Because the time you are using to trying to do anything that you can't do better than those who do it for a living. It's not your core.
Exactly.
It's not your core. So farming is the core, but it doesn't mean that you can't do any other thing. But the fact is that capacity to be able to farm and also be able to do other things need to be assessed. It needs to be assessed so that the person will know whether to go ahead with it or not. But the best thing to do is actually to concentrate on your core and let other people do their own.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Now, the value chain is so big. That's what he's trying to say. And also, Mrs. Obichukwu was trying to say something about innovation. I think that was just a summary of what she said the other time about there's a need to be innovative. As there's a dynamics in the market. The market is not stationary. So there's need for us for business people to be innovative in their approaches to doing business. Now, before I omit Mr. Obiseson, somebody was asking, how can we find the data required for due diligence? So after Mr. Obiseson finished asking that, I will want Professor Akutsin to respond to that in terms of data needed for due diligence. So Mr. Obiseson, over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. On the COVID-19 palliative, our Franklin Bank is an institution that is founded by African member states. And today, we have 51 African member countries as shareholders of our Franklin Bank. Definitely, we have palliative for COVID-19. And we recently launched a 3 billion pandemic trade impact mitigation facility. And that trade impact mitigation facility is actually targeted at African member countries, financial institutions, central banks, as well as corporate, who have been impacted by the pandemic. And I will explain. The overarching objective of that pandemic impact trade mitigation facility, we have seen that some of the African countries have been impacted in terms of their earning capacity. For example, Nigeria has been impacted from the commodity price in terms of the crude oil price, which has gone far, far below the budget expectation. And so part of the palliative here is to support Nigeria or any other member country. For example, in Egypt, Egypt is a tourist country, and most of their export earnings come from tourism. They have also been impacted by this COVID-19. And so part of the thing we are doing is to support them to be able to boost their foreign reserve, and as a way, being able to do the import cover. Now, if I speak specifically to how this impacts the audience here, now part of the issue today is the central bank inability to be able to support the import of essential goods and services, including food, because Nigeria are doing a lot of export of food, or import of food rather. Now, but by the time we provide facility to central bank will be able to boost their foreign reserve and then help to support those in the manufacturing sectors in terms of getting the essential commodities that is required for their production. So we don't actually have a direct facility to support people in the food value chain, but rather we have palliative to support countries in form of government, in form of central bank, in form of financial institution in those member countries to be able to stand firm during this COVID-19 time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Professor Akutse will be answering the question, but somebody, just to add to your question, they want to respond to, somebody want to know how they can assess training materials for foodpreneurs, like you put it. You can start by asking the question. Yeah.
Fantastic. Foodpreneur, and that is what the IAMN we do. We handle those who are interested in such kind of training can discuss with the IAMN, and then such will be packaged, and also perhaps in conjunction with the export house, the multi-mix export house and all that, and what have you. So we can package such training. And in fact, let me add here that this is just a kind of introductory package, so that people begin to see the need for foodpreneurship. In terms of data, there are various ways to get data. One, you have the secondary source, you have the primary source. The primary source is the one you generate yourself. You go to the field, you gather them, you get them, you analyze them. And as they said, data is the new oil. If you have data, even right now, today, if you have the data I'm looking for, I'll pay you straight away. Several organizations are paying huge money for data. If you have a data, it's a lot of money for you. And in fact, some of those data I display, my children, because we are on lockdown, my children has to help me to generate them. It took us time to get them, generate them from various sources. Now, back to the secondary data. The secondary data, there are various sources. One of the global sources is the World Bank. You'll be surprised when you are looking for a particular data in Africa or in any African country, you'll be surprised to find them in the World Bank. You go to their site, you will see a lot of data in any field that you want. Number two, some specific data may not be seen in World Bank. You now come back to African Development Bank, then you get them. Then there's the United Nations. United Nations is a place you can offer volunteerism. When you volunteer, you'll be getting skills at no cost. But when there is movement, there's data to be generated, United Nations will pay you. I'm already a member of the United Nations volunteer team, and sometimes they will call you to come and work. Sometimes they even give you permanent jobs as a result of that. So those are the way, when you link up with this organization, sometimes you subscribe to organization. There are private sectors in Nigeria that you can subscribe to them, who their major work is in data generation. There are several of them in there. In fact, most organizations in Nigeria, I know corporate organizations, they pay for such data. They want to see their market share. What is our market share in the country? How are we faring? What is the perception index? And all those in their data. And they are paying heavily for it. There are, if you look at, Economics Associates, financial derivatives, and all those organizations in Nigeria, the major work they're doing is supply of data. So once you are able, you build your capacity for data, you see that you are rich. Let me tell you something heavily, when I mean millions are paid for data, because it's what organizations use for planning, to be able to know what step to take, to be able to know how to CNEC, to meet with their competitors, to know all these things. People pay huge data to collect. Let me even tell you recently, as ordinary as JAM data, somebody just paid heavily recently to just get some information about JAM data. Somebody analyzed it and gets it. Like just recently, the data just came out yesterday. So there are many ways to get data depending on what you want to get. And don't forget, we have Federal Ministry of Agriculture in Nigeria that you can also access. You say you want data on this. Then this one, but you don't use it because you can burn your finger on the way. There's the Freedom of Information Bill that allows you to use that to get data. But that one, it has some political abracadabra around it. So don't try to use it. Try to find a way to get some of your data. So there are various means to get. There is also the Nigerian Import and Nigerian Investment Promotion Council. They have a lot of data on some of this information. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. These data are available for you to source them. You can look for some of them yourself, and here you go. So in terms of the training, please contact IAMN, then we'll see how to package whatever you want to do.
Thank you
and
very
even
much,
if
Professor.
nobody contacts, please IAMN, start organizing something that people can key into what we're doing. Thank you.
We are on it, sir. Thank you so much. We are wrapping up in about 13 minutes time. That's 5 o'clock on the dot. We are going to end. Honestly, I will not feel good about myself if I don't take these questions. People are still online. They are waiting. And one way to show that we really appreciate these people is to just read out some of their questions. Please, panelists, bear with us. Okay, now, the first question will go to Dr. Obiora. Somebody wants to know, he said, I had an export business years ago, and I was required to obtain certification by SGS inspection. I don't know what that means. If you can throw light, but just about why you're thinking about that, somebody is asking Mrs. Obishuku about, I say, please, I need my question on coconut oil export. Answer by, okay. So this person is asking, how can he or she export from Africa to UK? It's a coconut export business that the person is into. So Dr. Obiora, you can take your question answer.
Okay, SGS is Société Générale de Surveillance. It's a French company. It's a third-party inspection company that is in the 5 continents. So their role actually is to certify quality. You know, the exporter is afraid of the importer as much as the importer is afraid of the exporter. So the only way the importer will protect himself to ensure the quality of what he gets is by appointing a third-party inspection agent in the country of origin of the goods. And SGS is actually one of the most popular. So SGS is there. There's no difficulty. If you, the SGS is, their head office is in BI. They have an office in Wharf Road in Apapa. So there's no big deal in getting the SGS certificate. But the truth is, if your buyer wants you to get an SGS certificate, it's actually in your interest.
Okay.
If he does not want any quality certificate, then he wants the quality of the goods to be determined at destination, and you should never accept that. So that's not a problem. If you can find, the person can find a way and reach me, I can give the person the contacts at SGS for him to get whatever it is that he's looking for.
Okay, sir. So in fact, what I'm going to tell the people on the other side listening is this. I'm going to flag again before we end this this whole webinar. I'm going to flag our address. You can send email to IAMN, or you can send privately email to me, Steve at unlockingafricanmarket.africa. Steve at unlockingafricanmarket.africa. And then you can also follow us on Twitter to Twitter handle. I'm going to also flag the Twitter handle of our panelists. And those of them that are on LinkedIn, you can send them a message, you can begin to follow them. All of them are doing an amazing job. And I think there's no point keeping ourselves in the dark. We need to just reach out for information. And I just thank Prof for mentioning something about data. You know, data is the new oil. That is the new oil now. There's hardly anything you can do without data. And talking about data, recently our institute, the Institute of Agribusiness Management in Nigeria, we are trying to start our own kind of a data center. As I talk to you now, the plan is ongoing, and we are working with some international agencies to make that data center available. And it's going to be a data center that is available not only to Nigerians, it's going to be a Pan-African arena where people can be able to have direct access to data. And we'll be communicating to our people in terms of all the relevant trainings that are available. And I think what I would say is that most of our training at IAMN are free. Most of the trainings are free. And the only thing you need to do, you just need to be a member. So once you become a member, you have access to our breakfast meetings where we bring professionals, people on board to come and talk to our members. And then we have our annual webinar, our annual seminar. There are quite a lot of things that you benefit by becoming a member of the Institute of Agribusiness Management Nigeria. So most of the trainings are pretty much free, but you just need to become a member. And then the procedure to become a member will be sent to you via email. And you can also get the information on our website as well as on our social media platform. So Mrs. Obichukwu, I just want you to quickly respond to that question that I raised now as far as the export of coconut is concerned. Yeah, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. If you are exporting or targeting to export to Europe, there is what we call product passport, okay? Just like you can enter different countries without your passport, products also have passport. The primary production, that's from the farm to the farm gate and to the market, it's for global GAP standard, global good agricultural standard. That's the requirement for majority of products. And then for the processed product is IFS, which is International Features Standard. Those are the certification that the high markets are requiring, because global GAP and IFS is for supermarkets, okay? If you want to export to Europe. So you need to get those standards. You need to know how to produce that. That's the first thing they will be asking you. They want to know how you process, how you produced, and then before it can be sold because of European laws. So if that person wants to know more, you can visit our website, Best Produce International UK Limited, and then you can contact us. We run some trainings on specific of standards and how you can, because every aspect of supply chain have standard, including packaging, So it depends on the market you are targeting. The market requires you to have standard, the packaging, the product itself, and it is a supply chain. You can't break it at any point. If you break it at any point, then there is no, your product is not certified. So it must be a certification process.
Okay, great. In fact, I'm inundated with questions and appreciation. It's a pity the panelists could not see this appreciation. I think they are very profound. And I don't know how to thank you on behalf of the participants. They are just sending in their appreciation. People have really, really been empowered by this information. Thank you so much. Now, we're wrapping up. We cannot exceed this time. I will just want the final, closing remarks from all our panelists, our distinguished panelists. And I'm going to start the way I started. I'm going to start from Dr. Obiora. Just a final word from you, encouraging people. A lot of people are at the verge of giving up. The terrain is so difficult. It's a trying time for even especially business owners, small business owners, entrepreneurs. And a word of hope, a word of encouragement, and something to look forward to. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. What we're talking about is possible. It's not easy. If anybody tells you it's easy, don't take it. Of course, if you know any business that is easy, please tell me about it. I think I'm interested. So the point is that information is power. This webinar would have given you a lot of information. Like Seth said, for me, it's just like my life. I had a webinar 1 hour, 45 minutes webinar, which both Steve and Seth attended. So the only thing I want to do, because I can see a lot of expert questions. So Steve, what I'm going to do is to, as a bonus to everybody who has attended,
okay, sir,
is to give you the recorded version of that expert webinar that we had today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Freely with everyone who has attended in this place.
Okay.
And then whatever help we can give, because the thing is that collaboration is the name of the game going forward. Collaboration is the name of the game going forward. So let people learn how to collaborate, because in Nigeria, it's always me, myself, and I, which is why you can't find successful partnerships. So let people collaborate. The bigger we are, the better for us. Exxon doesn't need Mobil to survive. Mobil doesn't need Exxon to survive, but they just found out that if they come together, they can make more money. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Doc. That is a wise saying, collaboration. That is the new, that's the buzzword now that we all should use, continue to use. So for participants, before I go to Mrs. Obichukwu for our own closing remarks, I'm flagging off the relevant information for you now on this website. I mean on the screen now. So if you could just take a note of the hashtag that we made use today, and then you can follow us and send us private messages and also email the institute. So Mrs. Obichukwu, kindly give us your own closing remark. Over to you.
Thank you very much. My own closing remark, it is time for Africa to arise. We are in a big global football field. Africa hasn't won for some years, but it is time for us to arise and take the bull on the horn. By the horn, a lot of opportunities are happening during the COVID and post-COVID. A lot of industries, big industries, you know, we have depended so much, production has been happening in China, but unfortunately, because of this COVID, things are changing. You know, a lot of businesses and big businesses are relocating from China, and it's only those who are prepared that can grab it. India is already grabbing it. Other, you know, South American countries are grabbing it. We need to look at, we are these equal players in the global market, and not see ourselves as slaves or beggars. That, you know, and fear, there is a lot of fear that, especially for small businesses. As I said, small business can only be planting 1 acre or 2 acres of land, and they can still be a big player in the global market. Please, fear is false evidence appearing real. Collaborate. Collaboration. Review, if you are in association, review your association. How effective is it? I found out that there are people who are briefcase farmers and there are people who are real farmers, okay? Make sure you are with the real farmers who can walk through the process, work together. Business is a tough area, but it is conquerable. You can conquer it, okay? Come together, share knowledge, share skills, get the information, what you need, attend the trainings you need to attend. Make sure you have somebody who can walk you from where you are and lead you to the market, okay? That's what I need to leave you with. But Africa, this is your time.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, madam. We really appreciate your time. And we are going to keep in touch. Also, there are quite a number of people who have been asking for the slides, all the slides that were presented on this program. They want us to package and email to them. So we are going to make them available to you. If you register for this webinar, we'll make use of your email. And the Institute will also like to appreciate every one of us, and also Dr. Obiora for trying to make this document available for all the participants. We are going to distribute widely, and share with all of them. So I'll go to Mr. Obisesan to give the opening remark, and also in giving your closing remark, rather, you please, if there's a way you could just allay the fears of our entrepreneurs and our small business owner about the issue of money, about the issue of finances, and you know, because that's actually at the core of the whole thing. So people will not even make a step if they because of this issue of finances. So your opening remark, we want to try and give people hope and let them know that, cool, if other people have done it, you can do it. And this is actually the whole essence of this, to restore hope to people, to give them something to look forward to, so that you don't begin to see finances or lack of this and this as the obstacle, but to reach out and really live the dream. Why? Because so much is dependent on it. Over to you, Mr. Obisesan. Oh, again. Okay, I'm just trying to mute now. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Agriculture is a business, a big business that provides opportunity for SMEs and entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And the business, you cannot get it wrong. And with the advent of the AFCFTA, it also provides comparative advantage to people doing it well, to be able to expand. The AFCFTA provides skill for farmers to be able to expand across Africa. At Afreximbank, facilitating intra-African trade of our core strategic pillar. And within the working with local financial institutions, as well as working with our entrepreneurs who have, because Afreximbank is a wholesale bank, so sometimes we may not be able to work directly with some of the entrepreneurs because of our issued limit. But that program in place to support those people who are in the agro-business, ranging from supply chain financing to trade finance facility, as well as to support them leveraging on the credit rating of the bank to be able to tap the opportunities in the global market. What I can assure us is that the AFCFTA provides a profound opportunity for all of us, and we should take that opportunity. Feel free to reach out to us, and we will be there to support you in our own little manner. Our aim is to promote trade in Africa, and we are doing this well by working with all stakeholders across the value chain to be able to intervene and deliver that mandate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We really appreciate you. Thank you for your contribution. Yeah, I'm going to go to Prof now to give his opening, his closing remarks. You see, now I'm saying opening. I don't want us to go again. So, Prof,
no.
Over to you.
We have to go because
yes.
Mr. Export, he wants to start exporting. So I think now, but let us, the question to ask that is always in my mind, who will feed the more than 1 billion Africans? Yes, technology is good. Technology is fine. Farming is good. Agric is fine. Any other work we're doing, but who will feed the over 1,000? The hunger virus is already consuming so many people. And it is my take that we should begin to think on foodpreneurship business. What area will you fit in? Just in my own community here where I stay, I want to tell you, if you see the way the clearing house for rice is quite amazing. The consumption of rice, we don't even have enough. Why should we be eating imported rice when we have a massive? In fact, if you want to know the difference, eat the local rice. If you enter any eatery, ofada rice is more expensive than any other rice. So why are we not doing it? Who will bear the card? And most of these places, they want supply. They are not meeting the supply. And this is what I think we should begin to look at in the foodpreneurship business. And in addition to that, let's look at what else can we do? As I used to discuss with you, Steve, the food business is the business that can never fail. Most of them that started very small, from mama put to just by the roadside, if you see where they've gone, Just selling akara in Ife, that Ifewara area where we used to pass and go to Elisha. The woman was able to build houses and get this and akara that we used to branch and buy. You buy for 50 naira and 100 naira. So I think the time has come for us to build our capacity on foodpreneurship business. Now, the export is one thing, but within our locality, we can start somewhere. Start small and grow big. So I want to believe that I'll end here by thanking everyone for coming on board. And I tell the people, when you need help, the institute is there, the association, the organization is there, Madam Patricia is there, the AfriBank that has a lot of palliatives to give out to those who are interested. They are all there, so you can always get to them and get yours. So thank you very much. I wish you the best. Thanks for inviting me and thanks for everything. So Logisticpreneur, thanks a lot, sir.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, the panelists. We really thank you. And I think that I know that there are a few policymakers or decision makers that have listened to this webinar. And I think we've all taken one or two things out of this particular very special webinar. I would like to see Africa having some, like one of the things personally I'd like to see, and as a contribution is, I would like to see policymakers and developmental organizations making decisions around establishing food banks and pantries in strategic locations around Africa. In local government, let there be food pantries, let there be food banks. Why? Because, this COVID-19 exposed a lot about our food insecurity. We need to build a society, a community that is food secure. So before we think global, let us think local. And some people call it a combination of the two. They say think local. I really thank everybody for being on this. I appreciate you. And just before I end, I think on a lighter note, there's someone in my house that will not forgive me if I don't recognize him now. He's actually my boy. Exactly 12 years old today. It's Daniel Arowolo. I really thank God for giving us Daniel.
Okay, fantastic, Daniel.
Yes.
Is it that same Daniel? Was it not that sweet Daniel that I met in South Africa many years ago?
So I took the time after the birthday to just say, look, I'll come back to you. Let me go and do this webinar and talk to people. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. We really enjoyed this time. Thank you so much. We are going to be in touch with all our panelists, and then we will send you a report, a post-event report and appreciation letters. And for all the participants, I thank you so much for your patience. Some of them have waited 2 hours. And we really appreciate you. So we are going to email the slides. I will get the slides from the panelists and also send you some information on how you can become members of our institute. Thank you so much. And I just hope and pray that the lockdown will be over very soon so that we can all return back to our normal lives. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye from Cape Town. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.